rumbling has continued to occur around the mysterious Starfield coming from Todd Howard and his team at Bethesda Game Studios in Maryland. Through my personal Discord server, it was sent to me that the copyright notice on ZeniMax's own website listed Starfield for 2021. Now, I'm not sure if anyone else discovered this, by the way. That's how I personally found it and then put a tweet out about it. Other games listed on the site had their respective launch years matched with the copyright notice. So Fallout 4 was in 2015, Doom Eternal was 2020. So there was something there, at the least, matching up with release years. Hoglaw, who, once again, our friendly legal expert who joined up for an episode of DDU, wrote on Twitter, quote, I would say it reads more as there's something that could happen this year, but there's no guarantee. Jeff Grubb said he had more of an informed prediction that Starfield would serve as a connective tissue between Xbox and Bethesda's respective E3 showcases on his Games Mess show. Wanted to lead things off with this because we did have a pretty good question about Starfield, but it seems like more and more through reportings, discoveries, that Starfield is lining up to be revealed this year on an official capacity, I should say. It was technically revealed back in 2018, but I mean, of course, gameplay, knowing what the thing is, that type of thing. So with some of these rumblings, where do you sit on a E3 reveal for Starfield? Are you expecting it? What do you make of some of the copyright notice stuff that we found here? I'm not sure if you saw it. If not, I'll link it to you. It's on my Twitter account. But what do you want to start with first?
Well, you guys are much more into like checking copy. Like, I don't really check copyrights and anything like that, but I think it's a good first base for like any kind of discussion. I usually just like talk to people that I know about games, and I'll be like, seriously, is it coming or is it not? Blah blah blah. But everybody's saying the same thing. Was like, it could come or it couldn't, which is typical of any game that's in the latter half of a year. Like, any time we get in the last 6 months of a year, you could say it'll come out this fall, or maybe it'll come out next year, because that's just the way games work. So I think they'll for sure show it at E3. I don't think there's any hesitation they'll show it at E3. But as for releasing this year, I still just don't think it will be released this year. But that's not that's like, it's going in the face of what most of you guys have, which is more data than I do. I was just, sort of hinted that it was not coming this year. But if it is, I will say this. If it is, we will then look at a situation where there's a far higher chance that the other indications we got were wrong as well, which is the exclusivity. And the reason why I bring that up is the farther away, the less chance of exclusive, or the more chance of exclusivity. And so a lot of the tie-ins was that, hey, this is going to be 2022. Exclusivity makes more sense, blah, 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 because of where they would be and all that kind of stuff. And now you look at 2021, it's like, well, September, November? Like, if you're talking just a couple months away, then we just don't know what Microsoft paid them to do. Like, was it just for the stuff, or was it also for exclusivity? Those weren't announced yet, so we don't know. Yeah. But I think it just brings into question a little bit more. But I guess E3, they probably wouldn't say that. And that's the honest opinion. My honest opinion is, if we do see it, there may not be available on these platforms that's that points to if it's truly going to be exclusive. That's just my.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the 2022 thing, because it's always, and I've said this even when I reported in January and mainly February, that like, hey, Starfield is still slated internally to release this year. And unless I was told otherwise, I'll kind of believe that. But it's just interesting because a lot of people do get caught up in this conversation and forget that it's very easy for a game this year to get delayed, especially last year as well. Yeah. Any game, literally any single one can get delayed. And that's really important to emphasize, because a lot of people have sprinted away with reportings like it's a guaranteed, it's coming this year. It's why you're not seeing, like, Jeff Grubb, very chatty insider. You're not seeing him say like, yep, this year. Like,
if he did, he would say, yes, this year, but maybe not this year, but probably next year, possibly this year. Half the time, I have no clue what he's saying. I just found him,
it's no offense to him, but like, this guy is a chatty insider. Like, he just likes to yak about everyone's secrets, and it's like, that's his thing. And so I feel like if he's not saying it, then that's worth noting, right? that's a status that's a status check of where the industry's
Right.
at. I've said it before. It's not news. I've said before. I was told like, hey, they're aiming for 2021.
You've
Well, that's
always
not
thought
news at this point.
2021 overall, like.
Well,
or
yeah, because
guessed
I don't like to
2021.
do scoop reportings.
Nah.
Number one, I don't want to be a leaker because and this is no offense to anyone, by the way, I just have higher ambitions beyond leaking data, and I
Yeah,
don't want
that
to
could
spoil
go away
surprises
anyway.
either. Yeah, exactly. It can change fast. It can make you look foolish. So I'm not really in the business of that. But when I have public information corroborating what I've been told by sources that have been right in the past, kind of like what I mentioned in my reports of the KOTOR remake, I was told like, hey, it's going to have more action combat. I'm like, okay. And then you see on a AAA job listing on Aspire, a company that's never done a AAA game, they have a action combat job listing. It's like, well, there it is. That makes a lot more sense. That's a lot easier to report. So yeah, it's one of those things where I think with Starfield coming in 2021, it seems to be sort of a internal
Target.
Let's go for this type of thing. And the reason I say that is because I think it was on Destin Legary's YouTube channel. He was making a video was sent to me about Starfield from him because I was in it. And so someone was like, hey, you got a shout out here. And so I went to go thank him. I typically do that if someone features my coverage in their videos. And I was listening to it, and he mentioned that, or no, it was Jeff Grubb. That's who it was. It was on his Games Mess show. He mentioned that the Bethesda communication managers kind of like all took a week off, kind of like a pre-E3 week off. And typically your assumption would be they're going to do that if most decisions are made. So I feel like if the internal reportings are, hey, we're going to do Starfield this year, or we're aiming for a reveal of Starfield this year, I don't know if they're going to come back and suddenly change that. But even when things were normal, we've heard reports of an E3 demo getting pulled before. So
Yeah, true.
it's really up in the air in that regard. But I feel pretty confident we're going to see Starfield this year.
I think the best thing is if we. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, if Bethesda continues to be the creature of habit that they have been for multiple decades, this is the year they'll do it. This is the year they'll at least show it. They'll do their typical May teaser, or I should say early June teaser. Because E3, what is that? It starts the 11th or the 13th or something like that. I forgot the exact dates, but if Bethesda remains the creature of habit that they are, then they're going to start teasing Starfield within a couple of weeks of E3, so probably early June. So that's when you'll get your answer, I think, publicly at that. Other than that, more reports will continue to fly around. Sorry, what were you about to say before I kind of talked right over you?
No, that's all right. I interrupted. I don't remember, but I think one of the cool things is that if it does come out this, other than people saying when will it or won't it come out, there has been no leaked data other than those supposed but for sure screenshots, right? That's pretty much it. And I think that's the best part, because if all this is true, it does indicate people can hold secrets very well. And, you do have some people saying 20, but it's like, a leak, but it's not confirmed, but it matches up with the copyright. So there's none of this 100%, which I think is awesome, because that does indicate that at least somewhat some companies are able to hold data that's important. And I think that's
always
awesome.
been good at that.
I know, but especially now when you have everybody who's like, it's one of the reasons why I almost never reach out to anybody, because I never want them to think I'm picking them for like a video. It's like, if there's a PR manager or for a game, I will never DM them and be like, hey man, not that you do. I'm saying I will not, because it's what happens all the time now. Even and PR managers have told me that before in the past for games. They're like, yeah, dude, I have like 8,000 people saying, just between me and you, can you tell me, blah, blah, blah. This would be great if it does, because I think that's one secret. The mystery is what I sort of dig. And I want to be surprised, like I would also rather be happy that it is released in 2021 and is good, because I would love a big game this fall too. COVID has annihilated so many companies, and We've seen 4 now. I knew of 3, and now there was a 4th big delay. It's like all these delays. Gotham was another surprise. Somebody was saying, like, I had no thought process that it was coming out this year. It's like, well, you were the only one, because there were people internally who were like, this for sure coming out this year. So it's like, there's a lot of people who are surprised about various games being delayed, and I hope it's not. I'll just say that. I'd love to play it.
Yeah, I agree, and because it could be and end up being a strong finish to the year if you get like a Starfield, you get a Horizon out this year, like so many people.
That's
hope.
Another one, right?
Yeah. So fingers crossed. We'll see. I'm just excited at the premise, and this is where excitement lies, by the way, in answer to our question earlier in the show. I'm excited at the premise of kind of a new sci-fi RPG, because here's the thing is that with Mass Effect gone, No Man's Sky sort of being its own thing, like it's not an RPG, there's this big hole in sci-fi role-playing games right now that no one really has taken up. Space exploration and all that stuff, that's not really there right now. BioWare's coming out, of course, with Legendary Edition, but outside of that, there's a lot of space sim games and stuff, but we don't really have that space RPG. So I think Bethesda is kind of coming in at just the right time. Also, they're not going to be really. They have to be. I'm sorry, I know they're good people at Bethesda, but just like any company, but they got to be breathing a small sigh of relief that Cyberpunk did not dominate like many had expected it to. Because if it did, it sort of would have been breathing down their neck, I think, no matter what they released. Kind of like what happened with Fallout 4 and The Witcher 3, it would have happened again. So I would not be surprised if some people there were like, okay, it's our time now. Like, we got this, So I got a good feeling about Starfield.